tell me you did not laugh at the KKK scene, bro. All right, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Tit for Tat with my boy Anthony A. Perez. So if you're new to the channel, real quick, Tit for Tat is where we pick movies out for each other that we normally would not watch. So this time, got him watching Bustin' Loose with Richard Pryor. And this is going to be a first, y'all. This is a first that we totally disagree. Like, totally both on... No, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that because he's picked out stuff for me where I totally hated and he totally loved. So now I'm going to be on the receiving end of this. So without further ado, Bustin' Loose. Well, okay, well, first of all, before I get to that, subscribe to Anthony A. Perez. I'm going to leave the link in the description. So if you haven't already, subscribe to him, Anthony A. Perez. He reviews movies like myself and shows and really big into Star Wars, man. And yeah, check him out. You know what I'm saying? So here we go, Bustin' Loose. All right. I'm laughing because I know when you get to his portion, you're going to be like, wow, like he did not like this. And for Perez, Perez always sees the positive in movies and stuff. Even for movies terrible, he finds a positive. And you know, we're going to get to it in a second, but he doesn't totally shit on it. But I know him long enough to know that he didn't too much care for this. So yeah, Bustin' Loose stars Richard Pryor, Cicely Tyson. It was directed by Oz Scott, and I made a mistake on an earlier video where I said Bustin' Loose was directed by Michael Schultz. That's a lie. I believe I said Michael Schultz, but actually it was directed by Oz Scott, and Roberta Flack did the soundtrack to this. I love Roberta Flack. The music in this movie is just phenomenal. And so Richard Pryor, you know, he's a hustler. He's you know, fast talking hustler, always trying to weasel his way out of stuff, and he gets busted. Escapes going to prison. Instead, he gets put on probation for a very long time. But here's the thing: his probation officer Donald says, "Okay, since you want to, you know, play this little game, now you're gonna play my game. So because you're not going to prison and you're under my jurisdiction now, excuse me, you have to drive this broke down bus with Cicely Tyson and these special needs kids, okay?" And one of the complaints that Perez had about this movie was when it got to the point with the kids, that's when the movie kind of went downhill. But I disagree. I think the stuff with Richard and the kids was the funniest part of the movie. I guess because, you know, Richard reminds me a lot of myself, because when it comes to kids, you know, he's supposed to be gentle and very, you know, compassionate. But the way Richard talks to those kids, that's kind of me. Like, for example, when the one kid says, you know, why don't you take me fishing? And he was like, what the hell's wrong with you? Take you where? You know, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, that's kind of me. I feel that was the funniest stuff. So anyways, he has to get this bus and take these kids all the way to Seattle, where Cicely Tyson, her family, has a farm out there, because the schools don't want these kids. Everybody's rejecting them, throwing them away, you know, leaving them for dead. So Cicely Tyson says, okay, I'm going to take them with me. We're going to go to this farm, and we're going to give them a fresh start in life. Kudos. God bless her. This is, to me, one of not only my favorite Richard Pryor movie, but just one of my favorite movies, period. I love Bustin' Loose, all right? I remember watching this as a shorty, and my pop to this day will not watch this movie because I watched it with him one time, and then after that, every time it came on Showtime, I was all in, you know? So I could watch this movie 3 or 4 times a day if that's how many times Showtime showed it, and my pop got to the point where he says, I will never watch this movie again. I think even to this day, I'm 41 now, and to this day, he says he will not watch Bustin' Loose because of me. I just love the movie, man. The soundtrack, you know, Roberta Flack. Richard Pryor is like in prime form here. I think this is probably one of his best performances. He's sharp. He's on point. You know, this is before he got to the Richard Pryor that was scary and, you know, always, oh, God, no. You know, that Richard got annoying. Like, by the time he got to, like, The Toy and Brewster's Millions, which was okay, and Moving, you know, Critical Condition, with like those later movies, even Superman 3. I think Superman 3 was like his worst performance. This was probably like his last great movie, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love this film from beginning to end. There's little, I can nitpick a little bit, like, about what's wrong with this movie. Like, for example, I say when it gets to the point where they get to the farm, all right? Well, spoilers here. This is an old-ass movie, y'all. Yeah, the part where they get to the farm and, you know, that last act of the movie, it gets a little too sentimental, a little too sappy, a little too, you know, just, he's professing his love for the kids and his love for her. There's a lot of slow, music, and it's all loving and shit. They're almost like the Huxtables, you know what I mean? And it kind of slows down a little bit, but still it doesn't take away from it. This movie is still on point. So before I get to the rest of what I want to say about Bustin' Loose, let's get to Anthony A. Perez and what he has to say about this movie.
What's going on, Rashad and all his viewers? Once again, my friend, thank you so much for having me in another video. This time you wanted me to check out Bustin' Loose, a Richard Pryor film that you sent to me because I saw your review with Blacktastic for another Richard Pryor film, which the name kind of escapes me right now. And you said, hey, I'll give you the second best Richard Pryor movie. Now, I should go ahead and give you guys my knowledge on Richard Pryor up to this point. Outside of this movie, the only other movie that I've seen him in is the fourth Superman movie with Christopher Reeves, which I have not seen in a long time, and I do not remember being very good. And beyond that, I've mainly seen Richard Pryor's stand-up. I had a little phase where I was watching a bunch of just random stand-up, and Richard Pryor was definitely one that I watched a lot because he's incredibly popular, and even though I'm not incredibly familiar with all his films and all his work, he's somebody that I definitely have respect for, and I definitely think is funny. So when the movie started, I was really into it. It had this kind of cheesy, like slapsticky tone, and I was into it. I was having to laugh with the whole early setup of the film. The courtroom scene where he, pretends that he doesn't want to go to prison because he doesn't want to be under parole, and he ends up getting parole, and he's overacting. All that was super funny to me. That's what I thought this movie was going to be for the most part. And then the whole main plot of the movie kicks in where he's now, having to bust these kids and this woman around, played by Cecily Tyson, to a different state. And now he's got to kind of like watch over these kids and get them there safely. And he's got, 15 days to come back. And once the kids were introduced, I'm not going to lie, man, this movie lost me. The kids were just so poorly acted and so over the top and not in the right direction. And there was just kind of weird creative decisions on what they chose to do with these kids and how they chose to kind of play out the story. This is a movie that does have some charm and some heart, and you can definitely tell that they had heart making the movie. But while I was watching it, I just didn't care about any of the characters. By the time the credits were rolling at the end, I hardly remembered the names of the kids, and I just found the movie to be okay. I didn't hate it, I didn't dislike it, I didn't like it, and I didn't love it. It was right down the middle for me. I was kind of bored. I checked my phone a couple times. I was watching to mainly see what would happen to Richard Pryor's character because I enjoyed his journey, and I like the idea of this guy who's kind of a criminal, kind of a sleazy dude that is kind of put into the situation that he's just kind of doing so that he doesn't go to jail. And he ends up, building a connection with these kids that all have problems, and he ends up falling in love with this woman. I like that idea. The concept works for me, and I feel like if you had a better director and better actors behind it, it could have been better. Now, Richard Pryor, I thought, was actually the best part of the movie, which I'm sure is what everybody thinks. He was fun. He was likable throughout the course of the film. It was just the narrative and the underdeveloped elements that really took me out of it. There were moments in this film, like near the end, where he literally tells the pyromaniac kid that he loves him, and he tells Cecily Tyson's character that he loves her. It just felt unearned to me, and these kids were just so annoying for majority of the film that it just kind of felt a little out of tone at times. A lot of the film just felt very mashed up as far as the tones, and not necessarily in a good way. I just felt like there was times where it were really slapsticky and comedic, like the bus taking off and him trying to hold on to it while his feet are kind of like skidding on the ground. I thought that was funny. It felt like a cartoon. There was a lot of moments in this movie that felt like a live action cartoon. But then there are these moments with the kids that are trying to get more serious and kind of add some narrative to these kids with some, trauma. The one kid who's the pyromaniac who burned his parents to death, or the girl who tries to flirt with him throughout the course of the film, which is pretty strange. And then they, have this emotional moment where you can tell she has some sort of, sexual abuse issues, And so there was these moments that were trying to dip into some pretty serious trauma for these kids and pretty serious moments. But then it would go back to something kind of comedic or slapsticky. And it just felt like the tone was all over the place. And by the time the movie ended, genuinely, I just didn't care for any of the characters. I didn't really care about what was going on. And quite frankly, I just didn't buy into or believe the fact that Richard Pryor's character would, just turn so quickly. You know, here's this guy that was super selfish, and I get the idea. We've seen this movie before. We've seen this concept done before. But by the time that the credits were rolling and they were showing all the kids with their names of the actors, I couldn't have cared less. I'm thinking, who are these kids? Like, these kids had no proper development. Most of the time, they were just loud and obnoxious. The blind kid, half the time, didn't even look like he was acting blind. There was almost always somebody, like, standing next to the blind kid, holding, one of the sticks that blind people use to walk around. And the blind kid was hardly ever walking with the stick himself. It always seemed like he knew where he was going. There's the whole sequence with the blind kid driving the bus. It just was strange. The acting was not great. And it's kind of a bummer to say, because I feel like the earlier part of the movie, setting his character up, I enjoyed that. It wasn't until the kids were involved and just the whole latter half of the film, majority of the film, that it just kind of lost me. I did laugh and smirk throughout the course of the film, but a lot of it was just kind of spent with me just kind of staring at the screen and just kind of waiting for it to be over. So, Bustin' Loose, man, you've given me a lot of really great films to check out. And more than anything, I'm just appreciative to check out a movie I've never seen. That's kind of what I love more than anything else, doing this back and forth series with you. So I appreciate you putting me on to something I've never seen. Didn't work out this time for me, or at least it wasn't a movie that worked for me. But I can see people who maybe watched this, back when Richard Pryor was in his prime, maybe having a nostalgic attachment to this movie. But watching it myself today in 2021, it just didn't do it for me. It's not a movie that I found to be overly funny or even all that compelling. The narrative just really didn't work for me. So I'm going to hand it back to you, my friend. Thank you so much for having me in another video, and let's go ahead and hear what you got to say about this.
Okay. Look, I gotta respect it. If I'm sweating, y'all, I'm sorry. I just worked out not too long ago, and I think my adrenaline is still going. You know what I'm saying? I got some iron therapy in earlier. Okay, Perez, listen, I get it. I shit on a lot of movies that you love, namely Holes, okay? Holes is a movie that you hold near and dear to your heart, and I totally shit on it, okay? So as Cousin China says, even swap ain't no swindle. I know you're thinking, what the hell does that mean? Ask her next time she's on camera, because I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think I used that right. Okay, yeah. I definitely got to disagree with you on this one, dog, but I guess I take into consideration this is an older movie. I did see this when I was really small, so I have an attachment to it. I have just a love for it, the nostalgia. I just have a sentimental value with this movie. And being a first-time viewer of this, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from with it. It's hard because this movie is it's damn near perfect. So many laughs. The way Richard goes off on these kids. The way him and Cicely Tyson go back and forth with each other. She's the straight lady, the real, proper and, PC. And Richard's like, I don't give a fuck, I love the scene where they're about to go to the hotel and he was like, where's the key to my room? And she was like, there's no more keys. And he says, well, like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And she's like, well, why don't you read a book for a change? No, she said, it would be marvelous if you just read a book for a change. Marvelous, my ass. I ain't sleeping on no goddamn bus. Richard kind of reminds me of my pop. You know what I'm saying? My pop had the fro, he had the mini fro, he had the thick mustache and shit. And my pop kind of had a sense of humor, kind of like Richard. And they say I act like my pop a little bit, so maybe I got a little bit of Richard too. That's kind of my spirit animal, you know what I mean? So not to ramble on about this, I love Bustin' Loose. It's one of my favorite movies. I did say at one time this was my second favorite Richard Pryor movie, but I'm going to say this is my favorite. Now, Which Way Is Up is probably his funniest movie, no doubt. It's his funniest movie for sure. I think Which Way Is Up has the most laughs, but just overall as a film, something I could watch repeatedly and just, something just near and dear to my heart, Bustin' Loose, man. I just have so many fond memories watching this as a kid, throughout my life, and as an adult. I've shared it with my kids. My son has the attention span of a Cocker Spaniel, so he won't watch it, but my daughter, she loves it. But yeah, I give Bustin' Loose an A++++++++. Okay, love this movie, Yeah, as far as the kids go, yeah, I know you said, okay, Perez, I know you said the kids were annoying, but that's because these are special needs kids. These are kids with a lot of problems, you know what I'm saying? All of them have something wrong with them, so that's why they act the way they did, and that's why it's funny that Richard would react to them the way that he did. And the blind kid, I think that kid really was blind, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look that up. I think that kid really was blind. And that was a funny scene when he was driving the bus and Richard was hanging off and shit, and they was like, well, who's driving? Harold. Which one's Harold? The blind kid. There was some funny shit in here. And tell me you did not laugh at the KKK scene, bro. Okay, Perez, I'm talking mostly you now. Tell me you did not laugh during the KKK scene when Richard was talking shit. He had enough of the kids in Sicily. He's like, man, fuck this shit, man. You know, I don't take shit from nobody. I'm Mrs. Braxton's favorite son. Joe, baby. Joe motherfucking Braxton. And then the KKK walks up on him, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, bitch gonna try to tell me something. Shit. Funny shit, man. You tripping, dog. But I get it. I get it. You know, that's why I like doing these, because you get to see different opinions on movies, and sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree. So next, I'm watching Tarzan on his channel, and then he's gonna be watching Fight Club on the next go around. All right. But I'm gonna have him watch more black movies. We're gonna get more into the blaxploitation stuff come February. You know what I'm saying? Supposedly Black History Month. But, you know, I'm going to play along. We're going to watch some blaxploitation joints, and, yeah, this should be very interesting. So once again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Anthony A. Perez. The link is in the description. And if you enjoy this content, like, subscribe, and share, I guess. All right, I think it's my first time saying share. So anyways, y'all, this is Rashad G signing out. See you in the next video.